Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so just want to go over some things that are happening in the news. In the New York mayoral race, you've got Zohran and Andrew Cuomo kind of trading some blows here. Cuomo came kind of out of nowhere all of a sudden with some tweets and some accusations about how Zohran is keeping people who deserve to live in affordable housing out of affordable housing by living in the apartment that he lives in. Zohran said at the debate, as they all did, that he lives in a $2,300 apartment. And Cuomo is making the case that between he and his wife, they make way too much money to be living in a rent-controlled apartment. And he tries to essentially paint this picture of people like Zohran living in those type of apartments, keeping the hypothetical pregnant single mother out on the streets. And he has also introduced what he calls Zohran's Law. This is a proposed law that would prevent new incoming tenants of rent-controlled apartments from making over a certain amount of money. So it's essentially a cap on the amount of resources they have. It's a way to means test the rent control programs in New York. So terrible policy, just a bad policy idea that doesn't solve any of the problems that people are looking to have solved, except for in the most incrementally minded way. The idea that you're improving anything for anybody by means testing a program that's supposed to be for everybody, that's just boilerplate neoliberalism. It is laughable that that is the best Andrew Cuomo has to offer, especially in the context of him trying to deliver some hard-hitting policy. He is introducing something that is meant to communicate. He's obviously taking notes of the fact that Zohran, as a candidate, communicates through policy. He puts policy out there that has strong resonance with voters. And so all he has to do is keep mentioning that over and over again, and people associate him with that. And so Cuomo is trying to use policy to the same effect. And yet, in doing so, rather than focusing in on a policy that could help everybody, would be transformative in some way, would represent progress in some way, instead he focuses on proposing laws that he can use to target his political opponents. So, and also really crucial to point out that this would not apply to Zohran Mamdani. Cuomo points out that he's making, $100,000, $200,000 a year by his calculations, by Cuomo's calculations. And so, the cap is on at 200,000 or above, you could not move into a new rent controlled apartment. But Zohran Mamdani was not making that much money when he moved into that apartment. So this law would not have kept him out of an apartment like that. It's completely performative, and it is a law that stands to help no one. So rather than responding directly to Cuomo's accusations that Zohran is some kind of hypocrite because his family owns money in Uganda, which is the country that they're from, or that he had a wedding in Uganda, which is the country that he is from, he instead decided to go with some accusations of his own and essentially points to a shell company that Cuomo has that he would use to service a few clients in some unspecified way. As well as having a kind of tangential tie to Jeffrey Epstein. This is clearly a bit of opposition research that they were putting together that they plan to use at some point, but I think because Cuomo came out swinging all of a sudden, he's got some people helping him on social media or something, trying to make him a fighter on social media, so he comes out swinging with this thing, and so the Zohran campaign decides that it's a good time to drop their oppo research that they have on Cuomo. So let's watch this video that Zohran had targeted at Cuomo real quick, just to see what the accusations are, and then we'll go over the rest of this.
4 years ago, Andrew Cuomo resigned in disgrace, and you probably know why.
The governor's office kept the nursing home death data secret.
Cuomo aggressively groped an aide.
Inappropriately touched a female state trooper.
Use of state resources for a COVID-19 memoir.
Less well known is what he spent the last 4 years doing, besides getting trounced in the Democratic primary. In 2022, Cuomo started Innovation Strategies LLC to represent individuals and corporations in a variety of matters. Definitely not vague. Last year, it raked in more than $500,000. Who paid for Cuomo's services? He refuses to say. But what journalists have been able to piece together is troubling. In April, Bloomberg revealed that Cuomo advised a cryptocurrency exchange based in the Seychelles as it faced federal investigations. Then in May, Politico reported that Cuomo failed to disclose $2.6 million in stock options to the New York City Conflicts of Interest Board. His excuse? The stocks were technically owned by Innovation Strategies LLC, of which he's the sole proprietor. Finally, in June, the New York Times uncovered that Cuomo had worked with his longtime friend Andrew Farkas on a luxury marina project in Puerto Rico. Farkas' previous partner on luxury marinas in the Caribbean? Jeffrey Epstein.
We had a finance chair like none other, Andrew Farkas.
That's the thing about Andrew Cuomo. Once you think you found out about all of his scandals, you find out about another, and then another, and then probably another. But if my friend, the disgraced former governor of the state of New York, feels that's unfair, Habibi, release your client list.
So there you go, another excellent ad from Zohran. It's hard to compete with this, especially since it just has like a unique style. You know what I mean? He's pulling from the sort of Bollywood look and feel with the filters and the sort of yellow coloring, and it just gives it a look. And given that he already has so much momentum and these videos already had so much momentum, even back when he was just interviewing New Yorkers on the street, he can get away with doing this, and it just makes him feel a lot more honest. And so they're kind of trading accusations and almost threats here, right? Like they're trying to give each other ultimatums. He's saying, release your client list. Cuomo is saying, I want you to move out of your apartment so that a hypothetical pregnant single mother can move into it. Both of these are obviously empty threats. This has not escalated to the point where anything that serious or interesting is going to happen, except, I think Zohran was already planning on moving out of his apartment anyway, so who knows, Cuomo will probably, do a victory lap at that point. But I think kind of just sidestepping his accusation and his framing entirely was the right move, because really it is so much easier to paint Cuomo as, the villain and a part of the system, which he is in fact a part of. It's just so much easier to gesture towards that, which is why the tangential connection of one of Andrew Cuomo's clients to Jeffrey Epstein it's just an easy thing and a timely thing to invoke that's rather devastating. And that is what Cuomo is up against, is his entire history and the entire chain of association that he has with the broader public of like who he is, what he's done, what he comes from, what type of leader he is. He thought that maybe people would view him as some kind of fighter and like a tough guy that could, really stick up for New York. But he got destroyed in the Democratic primary, which is, if it wasn't important for him to win that, he wouldn't have been running for it. So Eric Adams is also still in the race. I think it's funny that Cuomo's kind of not even running against Eric Adams at this point. He's like, it's kind of just a foregone conclusion that Eric Adams is not going to be the mayor again. So I like that. I find that healing. And Zohran's mostly taking it easy right now. I think he just was on vacation in Uganda. And so now it looks like he's getting back. It's possible they already had this advertisement, and like I said, just thought it was a good time to drop it as a response, and continue to control the narrative, not let him control the narrative he's trying to with this effort at tweeting and being doing like Muhammad Ali misquotes on Twitter and stuff like that. But ultimately, he just doesn't have the juice. I think it's more and more dawning on people and sinking in for people that Mamdani is probably going to be the mayor. He hasn't won yet, and he's not up against nothing. But Mamdani is beating Eric Adams and Cuomo amongst conservatives in some polls in New York right now. So it just doesn't really seem like there's that much standing in his way. But it looks like Cuomo wants to try to fight it all the way through. So we will at least get a lot more entertainment out of that. So Gavin Newsom is moving forward with his plan to draw some new congressional maps in California that would offset the Republican effort to draw new maps in Texas that would essentially allow them to keep the House. They have polling that shows that they're probably going to lose in the midterms. Trump is not doing well in his term. He's not maintaining the things that he would have had to maintain to kind of cruise to good results in the midterms. All he had to do was not fuck up the economy and not do anything to shoot himself in the foot. But obviously he can't do that. He has to get in his own way. He has to create chaos. He has to get in all of our way constantly. So that's going to cost them at the midterms, and they know it. So they want to redistrict to try to entrench power. And Gavin Newsom is now making a lot of noise about the fact that they are serious about this, and they will take power. They will redraw these maps, not just in Texas, but across the country, in ways that allow them to take control of the country perpetually. They are fully prepared to launder their propaganda to the people that Democrats, the way Democrats have drawn their maps is what is unfair. So they have to essentially gerrymander everything to hell in order to right the disbalance, even though clearly it's the other way around, because Democrats get elected in areas where there are more people. And so the areas where more people are gathered, Democrats tend to do better, and Republicans have to rig the maps in their states to count more land than people in order to match the amount of people that Democrats are able to get to support them in metropolitan areas. That is the fundamental dynamic of American politics. Republicans are well aware of it. They're well aware that the ideology and the voter base that they appeal to is very much in the middle of the country and very much in the minority of the country. And so they have to set up the voting maps and set up their electoral strategies in ways that can accommodate for that. Gavin Newsom is saying that anything that you do, we're going to counteract in California. And then on Twitter, on this, the desk of Gavin Newsom Twitter account or whatever, they're saying more unhinged things, kind of in the cadence of Trump, saying things like, this will be the end of the Trump presidency. We're going to take over the House. We're going to redraw beautiful maps that will allow us to take back the House. And look, he's mocking Trump. Obviously, he's mocking the authoritarian cadence of Trump, whoever's writing these. It's not Gavin himself, but this is part of his operation somehow. This is also what Democrats want to see. Like, this is what anybody who is anti-Trump wants to see from somebody, right? Is not just like little owns and jabs, but like use your power, use it in a way that is going to threaten their power grabs. And the thing that's interesting in this case of California with the maps, I, as of right now, don't see what Trump can do to counteract this other than, I guess, trying to arrest Gavin Newsom, declaring it an illegal takeover of California, and it's not impossible that Trump will escalate to that level, especially if he feels like there's nothing else that he can do, and that Gavin Newsom's plan here is working effectively to thwart his own power. This is likely to get intense. We're still very far out from the midterms, and so this could get crazy. And Gavin Newsom is definitely raising the alarm that like Trump is serious about a third term, and these redistricting efforts are like a direct affront to democracy, and he's willing to fight about it. And so Gavin Newsom's right on this, and I think that this is a good thing for a Democrat to be doing. We'll see. There's always questions with Gavin Newsom about what his ulterior motive is. But honestly, I don't really care, because he's right that the Republicans cannot be allowed to just do this redistricting. And without this, exactly what Gavin Newsom is doing, it would be allowed. Gavin Newsom is urging other governors of other states to also do redistricting, which again is something I think they should do. Tim Walz has said in Minnesota that he has no plans to do redistricting in the state. I think that's a mistake. I think he is one of the ones who needs to be on the forefront of this. Tim Walz has been doing a lot of talking, a lot of jabbering, and again, throwing a lot of punches at Trump. But if you're not willing to use the power that you do have as a governor to do something about it, then why are people supposed to believe that you're going to use your power once you're in a position of real power? Because at any level of the system, you could say, oh, well, there's nothing I could do. I was up against this. I was up against that. But that's not how these people are governing. These people are doing whatever the fuck they want. So now that people see that, they're never going to be able to unsee it. And Democrats and anybody going against the Republicans in any way has to recognize that. Trump's federal takeover of D.C. is ongoing. The initial period for that is 48 hours, which pretty much has passed by now. But it looks like he is looking more at the 30-day period and extending that. So he had to request to get the period extended to 30 days from 48 hours. But what he wants is a bill to be passed that extends the period that the federal government can control the DC police beyond 30 days. So that's what he set his sights on. As of right now, it's not legal for him to do so. So what that means is that they are going to be rushing to get that through Congress in the next 30 days. There's going to be a challenge with that because they do need some Democrat approval, I believe, in the Senate. But Trump has said he will go around Congress if he has to and call a national emergency. So that's the plan of action that he's looking at, and he would indeed call a national emergency in order to keep control of DC. And that could happen fast because we're talking about a 30-day period here. So who knows, maybe they'll find some other loophole or some other way to blow past it. But that is the plan that he is looking at currently. They have soldiers on the ground. They're supposed to be patrolling around the clock. They're making arrests. The police are aggressively going into black neighborhoods and arresting people. They are also posting people's faces publicly after arresting them without any due process or anything like that, along with whatever crimes they are accused of. They are sweeping homeless encampments and getting them off the streets and really just kicking homeless people out. They have no plan for where to send people, and really they just want to arrest them and put them in some kind of facility somewhere. And then Trump and Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. attorney for D.C., they are both saying that they need to do away with cashless bail, which is essentially just a way to keep poor people in prison. So they want to arrest people off the streets for being homeless and then keep them there because they can't pay bail. That's essentially the plan there. In DC, this is going forward, but this gets back to what I've said, which is that I think there's a reason that Trump hasn't responded much to Gavin Newsom's challenges in California, is that he's just not focused there right now. And he has some troops sent there, and, maybe feels like he has a foothold in that situation. But as of right now, he is focusing not just, whatever personnel he can send to DC, but the actual executive branch itself is focused on the project of justifying this takeover of DC. So he's not able to do much to combat Gavin Newsom right now because, like I said, that would require use of the same type of federal force that he's using in DC in California to take over, whatever, more cities or whatever it is that Trump imagines he could do or could try to get away with. So that's probably what we're going to see. And the natural progression of something like this and authoritarianism taking over the different cities of America like this would be essentially putting different toadies of his in charge of the various sections, because Trump can't do all of this at once. But if he's got Stephen Miller in charge of California and Jeanine Pirro in charge of Washington, D.C., and I don't know, maybe Tom Homan in charge of New York, that is how a larger operation starts to work, where they can actively occupy multiple cities at once. And then it's just a question of personnel, morale, that sort of thing. So we're not at that stage yet. But trust, as Trump starts to face more challenges from different sides and is trying to clamp down his authoritarian power in certain places, he is going to start delegating power like that and putting people like Jeanine Pirro and these psychopaths that he has put in his cabinet. Notice that it's the kooks, right? It's the Jeanine Pirros, it's the Hegseths from Fox News. It's like these are the people who came across the craziest through the screen. But that's what Trump perceives to be, his most valuable assets. And so those are going to be the ones running these operations to keep control of these cities, and they're probably not going to be very good at that job. So just something to think about as this situation continues to progress, because it will continue to progress. And if there are protests anywhere near you, especially if you're in the DC area, get out there. If you're in LA or New York, there are probably anti-ICE demonstrations or DSA demonstrations going on near you, so tap in with that.